The pity fools you.
Welcome to Six of One and Bill of the Other. Bill, what is today's topic?
Today's topic is bullying. Yeah, the topic is me bullying you. So I'm just going to come up with stuff that I think would make you feel terrible and just berate you with it for like 45 minutes.
I think we need to start with my hair. Thinning, greying, going white. The fact
My
I
hair
was just
isn't
saying
thin.
to you off camera that I, in the right light and especially with the right contrast on the photo filters on Instagram, my chin looks like a badger. And I don't think, honestly, the badger is the sexiest of animals. It's not the worst. There's scorpions.
The honey
you know,
badger's pretty
have you-
badass.
The which one?
The honey
The honey
badger's
badger.
pretty badass.
The honey badger's a vicious
Yeah.
little isn't it?
That's right.
Hey?
That's,
A
so
vicious
if you look
bastard.
like a badger, man, that'd be intimidating. But it's like they say about honey badgers. They say women want them and men want to be them.
Yeah.
You ever heard that about honey badgers?
I think if I had to pick an animal right now to be, I'm going to go for the honey badger.
Yeah, honey badger's a pretty good one.
It's got a nice set of teeth.
I'd like to be a muskrat. Like, no one, you ever go to a job interview, right? And they're like, so, Mr. Ryan, before we begin asking about your qualifications, what type of animal do you think would best describe you? And I'd just go, muskrat. Like, what does that say about me as an upcoming employee?
Do you reckon they've ever encountered that as an answer? Because I know what you
So
mean. I've had to
yeah.
do a few of those things recently where it's like a personality test in a way.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was stuff like when you were a child, did you used to torture insects? Did you used to burn ants with a magnifying glass?
Are you serious? They asked that?
Yeah. And I thought, well, I don't know how this impacts upon the way you view me today. Are you gonna, assume that I'm some kind of proper deviant? Or
I grew up with a friend. I grew up
abuse
with a
and
friend.
bully people?
Sorry to interrupt you, and my froze. Your browser has lost connection to your camera.
It's a good job this is a podcast, and therefore the visuals do not necessarily matter, isn't it?
Okay, camera's back.
A
so
muskrat. What?
We
So,
can cut
carry
that.
on.
Well, no, mate, I was saying you had that question. I had a friend I grew up with that this is not made up. He crucified GI Joes and burned them. So he would make a cross and he would nail the GI Joe figure and then he'd dump kerosene on it. We were 8 years old and he would light it on fire.
Right,
and
so
it's funny.
This wasn't you, was it? This was your friend.
No.
Right? Yeah,
I think
you had a friend.
I think you
Yeah, you
know
had a
me well
friend,
enough
yeah.
to know that I have not. I've never crucified a GI Joe before. But the funny thing about this friend is he had all of the signs when you like look at serial killers and they go, these are the. He did all of them, and now, I mean, as far as I know, he hasn't murdered anybody. But imagine saying that in your job interview or whatever you're doing. Like, so have you ever harmed an insect when you were a kid? I used to crucify and burn GI Joes.
Yeah, because you're
I'd
right,
like
it is worded that
80,000 a
way.
year. That's my first offer.
Well, luckily, this particular question didn't have a box to if you ticked yes to then if yes,
Yes,
please expand.
Yeah.
Did you ever kill or torture insects when you were a child? Kind of. Expand. I crucified my action man, my GI Joe.
You remember Sergeant Slaughter? I slaughtered him. No one under 40 will get that joke who didn't watch G.I. Joe. Sergeant
But
Slaughter. Oh, I guess.
if
I guess,
you were
I
an
guess I'm
animal-
also. Yeah, I guess I'm also taking out the entire world, but America, because I just thought about it. No one in like Manchester watched G.I. Joe, probably.
I did. I don't. I think GI Joe is what we called Action Man. Did he have eagle eyes?
No, Action Man. That is the most generic sounding thing.
We had Action Man, and he had like a felt hair that you could like sand a worktop with, and on the back of his head he had a lever, and you turned the lever, and it was like that.
America has Superman.
You didn't have that.
America
Hang on,
has
this is-
Superman, and Britain has Action Figure.
No, this is no good. Hang on. No, this is no good, right? Action Man. I thought Action Man was G.I. Joe. Hang on. Action Man, UK.
I thought that's what Quentin
right?
Tarantino said to start a scene.
Oh, no, am I wrong?
Action Man.
That's. I see what you're doing there. Well, I'm trying to. Hang on. Let me
Right.
just type in GI Joe then. How big was GI Joe? Like 12 inches, and
Well,
in
and
real
like
inches.
in like the 60s, they were the size of.
Yeah, I had Action Man. He had a helicopter as well. I had a whole. The helicopter was like.
Did they just call it helicopter? What's the name of the helicopter? Helicopter. And then they
G.I.
made them,
Joe.
and then there were smaller action figures, and you could get them.
Here we go. Right, yeah, I know. Right, I can see the ones that come up on the screen are smaller. I'm looking for the Wikipedia page on it to sort this out.
You ever hear of Cobra Commander? Does that make sense? Cobra, that was the bad guy. And the same guy that
Mask?
played no, Mask was awesome.
Yeah,
Cobra
Mask was
was join us for this podcast on bullying. And then
have we said it's bullying yet?
No, anyway, bullying. Anyway, so
I tell you, you talk about bullying, right? And so the thing was, right? So the question would also say, so if it had said in my personality test, what kind of animal would you be if you were an animal? You go straight for muskrat because that you've already determined that that's gonna totally throw them because everyone's gonna say tiger, lion, bear. No one's gonna say tick. Louse, lice, head lice. I would be a gnat.
I would be a maggot.
You'd not be a maggot. Oh no, there you go. This could lead as the consequence of being bullied. In all seriousness, you could end up in later life answering such a question as, "I got to say a maggot. I feel that I'd only be a maggot." Right, talk about bullying while I look up Action Man.
Okay, so here's a fun fact. The voice actor who played Starscream in the cartoon for the Transformers also played Cobra Commander, the #1 bad guy for most of G.I. Joe's run.
Action Man is an action figure launched in Britain in 1966 by Palitoy as a licensed copy of Hasbro's American movable fighting man, G.I. Joe.
They called it Action Man.
Action Man, right? Let me just put... as long as I've got nothing silly on the screen, you've disappeared again. As long as I've got something silly on the screen. Hang on.
Oh, look at this. Fancy.
Action Man, right? Watch, look, right? Here, right? So, let me see if it says about the eagle eyes. See, look.
Eyes.
Look, I can't believe this is G.I. Joe. Look. In 1964, sales director blah blah returned from the United States with a new toy called G.I. Joe as a present. Then he realised it was well received. He borrowed the toy and presented it, so they made their own version.
Yeah. And it's the people who make, like, Raisin Bran. They're like, you know what else we need? War propaganda. To go with your raisin.
No, here we go. This is what I was talking about. The flocked hair. They've called it flocked hair. I called it like a hairstyle that you could use to sand a work surface with. But they've called it... The second innovation for Action Man was the flocking of the hair, giving the effect of a short, fuzzy hairstyle in 1970. Now, I'm not going to say my age.
You interrupted my joke about 2 scoops of war propaganda.
Oh, shit. Sorry, right? Pretend... Wait, well, one more thing, right? Hold the thing about the scoops, the 2 scoops, right? And let's just get this eagle eyes thing sorted, right? Because this flocking innovation crossed back over the Atlantic as it was introduced for G.I. Joe within the year.
Real quick. That sounds like how you'd... Like, if you weren't allowed to curse, that's how you would say, this flocking innovation.
Flocking innovation. This flocking innovation. Oh no. Oh god, this is good. Like, hang on, look. Wait, where's the eagle eyes? Here we go. Right, here we go, you naysayer.
Okay.
The next major shift in marketing of a dollar code with the introduction of an improved head with eagle eyes in 1976.
What does that
Giving
mean?
away my age.
So what does that mean?
Look, which had, right, the design utilised a mechanism operated by a simple lever at the back of the head, moving the gaze of the eyeballs back and forth. Like that. So you do this, yeah?
That sounds horrifying. Was this a
good.
horror thing?
I might still have my Action Man.
You know what American G.I. Joes had? Kung Fu grip, and they got the job done. That's what they did. They got the job done.
2 scoops.
Because General Mills, who owned the copyright to G.I. Joe and Action Man, they made like Raisin Bran, so I said they had 2 scoops of war propaganda. Because that was the for Raisin Bran, just 2 scoops.
Raisin.
The computer laughed so hard.
What did you call it?
Raisin Bran? You've never heard of Raisin Bran?
Raisin Bran.
Yeah, guess what the ingredients
in the UK.
Guess
in the UK was that fruit and fibre?
No, in the UK it's called cereal. It's just a box that says cereal.
We're gonna find it. Raisin. Oh, there you go. Raisin Bran food, right? We'll find out what it was called in the UK. Oh, it's Kellogg's Raisin Bran, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Raisin Bran. Sultana Bran in some countries. Here's a question for the folks at home. Does anyone from the UK remember Raisin Bran? I don't remember it. Then again, I have got a very bad memory.
In America, we had a cereal called Mr. T. It was Mr. T cereal, and it was the same.
Right.
It was same as Captain Crunch. So you'd eat it, and it would like cut your gum. You'd be like bleeding. The milk was always strawberry because your gums would be bleeding when you ate it. And I swear to God, the commercial for Mr. T came on the TV, and he'd go, "I pity the fool eat my cereal." And
what was it called? What was it called?
Just look up Mr. T cereal. It'll come up.
Right. I'm going to find that advert. Here it is, Mr. T commercial.
Cool. And Cool's teaming up with a good balanced breakfast.
Teaming up with Mr. T cereal and getting on the team that knows how cool breakfast can be.
Breakfast cereal.
It's gonna taste with a touch of brown sugar. Teaming up with Mr. T.
It's cool.
Teaming up with Mr. T. Golden sweet crispy teas. One bite and you're gonna be eating with the team that's teaming up with Mr. T.
It's cool.
He's got to say, I pity the fool. Oh, you lied to me! You lied to me! You lied to me!
He said it in one of them. He didn't just say, "It's cool." That sounded like they didn't, like, that was a bad take, like, "It's cool."
That just goes to show they will use anything to sell anything, because what could possibly, you used to eat that then? So what could it the cereal itself,
I tried it
what
once.
did it have to do with Mr. T?
My camera froze again. I tried it once because I used to love team with B.A. Baracus. So, just because I love Mr. T, and that's why they sold it with Mr. T, because kids everywhere were like, "Yeah, I love Mr. T."
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Murdoch never got a
shapes?
cereal. Murdoch never got a cereal.
No,
They never.
I can imagine. Howling Mad Murdoch. See, this is the thing. There's people of a certain age, which we're still not mentioning my age, but we just did work out that I used to have an Eagle Eye Action Man, which was made in 1976. People my age can probably name the members of the A team, right? So there's Howling Mad Murdoch, B.A. Baracus, Face. George Peppard was Hannibal. Hannibal.
He ate people.
That was it, wasn't it?
That was always his part of the plan. He would eat people and invade Carthage. Was that Hannibal? Carthage?
Oh, yeah. I remember now. In the A team, Hannibal always smoked a cigar, and he always rode on the back of an elephant.
Yep.
Yes, I remember. Bullying.
Bully for you.
Bullying. Right, so, what time? 15 minutes. Brilliant. Bullying. Today's episode is about bullying.
And Mr. T.
And Mr. T. And Mr. T. Yeah. I pity the fool. Did you ever get over in America, right? Over here, Mr. T came over here and, like, started to be a bit of a personality. And very, very recently, recent years. And we've got a show called Pity the Fool. And it's like CCTV footage of people like getting into a forklift truck and then managing to knock down an entire warehouse. And then it cuts back to him and he goes, "I pity the fool." And then it goes to someone like an old person with a Zimmer frame going along and putting it slightly down like that and then falling into the road and getting run over. And he cuts back to him and he goes, "I pity the fool." Have you got that in America? Or
No.
is that nonsense just exported to us?
That nonsense was just exported to you, unless I've never seen it. I had a bad idea for a YouTube show though that was like that, but it was called Piece of Window. And the idea was, it was like a Russian guy, and he's like wearing a tracksuit, and he's like, "Oh, hello, welcome to Piece of Window," right? And then they would show clips of like an animal would be like, "Oh, look, animal is running, he's coming up, and then like the sliding door would be closed, and he'd come up to the window, and go, "Oh no, piece of window," and the whole show would just be clips of. Me and a buddy talked about. He said, "Piece of window. Give me the piece of window instead of a pane of glass." Once, and we came up with a TV show called Piece of Window. It would be a YouTube show, and I think it would have 5 million subscribers. Oh no!
So,
piece of window.
People running to somewhere where they think they can go through, but there's actually glass in the way.
Yeah,
is that what the
but
show
it would
is?
just be like the sliding glass door. It wouldn't
But
be.
they
like,
hit it. They go right through it.
Yeah,
Because I've got a friend who just walked through his own glass dining room. Between his living room and his dining room, he's got a glass door, and he just walked right through it and had to go to casualty all lacerated, all down his face and everything. So most people now will put a sticker, like a sticker on the door in some way, some cool sticker to
Yeah.
so people, because people will just walk straight through.
If that happened to me and someone asked me what happened, I'd lie and say I got in a fight with a honey badger.
Do you know what? I Pity the Fool is a 2006 American reality television series starring Mr. T.
I never saw it.
So-
I didn't realize that was the thing.
And there was how many episodes? 6.
I'd be on the phone with my girlfriend. I'd be like, I gotta let you go. I Pity the Fool's coming on.
I quite liked it.
Yeah.
Where are we? Bullying.
Speaking of
Bullying.
bullying, is it offensive now to do a Russian accent? Like when I did my little bit, do you think that's is that like?
Oh,
no, now?
do it again.
I'm not doing it again now that.
If he, I'll do. I don't. Is it offensive? Oh God, have we got to the point where it's offensive to do accents?
Some
not
it
sure.
is. Some like I could do yours because you're here. I think right.
If I was to do a Scottish accent, I can't do accents anyway. So isn't Mike Myers always in trouble then?
That would be a good point.
Like just
again.
I don't know if it is offensive to do
I don't
an
think
accent.
it's good. Here's my Irish accent. I say to my wife.
Right, go for it.
Oh, those big brown eyes would turn stone to butter. I'd be quiet as a church mouse.
That's quite good.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's quite good. I like the ones where I see that on the Twitter feeds. I know this probably is offensive, but you get it on the Twitter feeds where it says, if you say this out loud. Oh, God, that's my
yeah.
stomach. If you say this out loud, and there's a good Irish one, which I can't remember now, but you say it out, you say the series of words, and it just sounds like you're saying something else in Irish. And like beer can, like the beer can one, which is Jamaican, isn't it? But I'll probably edit this out. But if you say beer can, it's bacon. In a beer can. Beer can.
That's really funny.
I want to
That's
eat
really-
the beer can. A beer can. I've got
You're
to
the type
edit
of
that
person
out.
that would take the last acorn from a blind sow and then kick her for squealing.
That's quite good. But so is there anything? If I'm not mocking the Russian man, because I would never mock Dolph Lundgren, I would never mock Drago, right? So if I go,
sir.
if he dies, no, hang on, shut up.
That's not the quote.
Hang on. If he dies, hang on. If he dies, hang on. Wait. If he dies, he dies. That sounds like good.
You sound
That's
like
quite good, isn't it?
You sound like Kermit the
Hang on.
Frog. You sound like
Oh, you
Kermit
do
the
it
Frog.
then. I'll bring it up. If he dies, he
but
dies.
You sounded like Kermit the Frog. Is that the Muppet version of the movie?
Hang on.
If he goes like this, watch.
Hey, wait.
Oh, let me do it.
Are you? Wait, hang on. Right.
You ready?
Go for it.
If he dies, he dies.
That was quite good.
You were like,
That was
"Oh, the
quite-
dials, the dials!"
That was quite good. Hang on.
In my country, you do not pity the fool. You pity the fool's you. No.
Right, here we go. Oh, no, I'm sure that was good. What you did? Hang on. Can you hear it now? Right, could you hear that? Yeah,
I
right.
heard that.
So let me just do it again, and then we're going to cut to you doing it. Because this is good. This isn't mocking. No one would ever mock Drago, right? Here we go. Right, let me just stop. Right, ready?
If he dies, he dies.
That's good. That's better than what I was doing.
In Russia, you do not pity the fool. The pity fools you.
Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, no, that's brilliant. Oh, you can imagine that now. Rather than, that would be, Clubber Lang versus Drago and him saying that to Drago. To
Oh,
Clubber
yeah.
Lang.
I forgot they were both
That would
Rocky
work.
aficionados. Yeah.
That's
Remember
the
where he's
thing,
like-
isn't it?
You know, I always remember from that. Hey, woman. Why don't you come with my apartment? I'll show
That's
you
right.
a real man.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy shit.
That was how I
Oh.
met my wife. I said that to her.
What was that? Were you? Where was that? Were you in a boxing? Because you used to be a boxer,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You look like you used to be a boxer.
I was
If I've
not
ever
a
seen an ex-boxer,
I don't know if that's a compliment or you're saying I seemed like I was concussed a lot.
Definitely. If I've never seen a more likely ex-boxer. Hang on, bullying. Right, bullying.
Bully
Right.
for you. Okay, bullying.
Bullying.
I saw
bullying.
I saw a comedian and being interviewed, and he talked about how bullying actually stays with you for your entire life, and people have three reactions to it. And obviously, this is generalizing it a bit. One is they just want revenge. Two is that they just kind of go within themselves and just stay away from any situation that could possibly have it happen again. And the third is probably the most healthy approach, is a sort of empathy where you don't necessarily condone what they did, but you come to an understanding of why it happened and the situation, and you kind of can deal with it. And fruit and fiber. Did you just pull that out of? Where did that come from? You just had that.
This is the English
you
version
out-
of Raisin Bran. The English version of Raisin Bran.
Did you have for like a decade in case I made that reference? You could just
Yes,
pull it out.
I have a selection of crockery next to me just in case someone makes a relevant joke, and I can put it. Don't underestimate the power
People
of the
at home-
mercurial number 6.
People at home think we're taking like notes before we do these episodes, where I'm like, if you have a bowl with some freaking cereal, get it down.
Sorry, bullying. I feel like I disrespected. Carry on.
We've just bullied Mr. T, Drago, the entire Russian people, and Hasbro. But I think so. I thought it was interesting because I thought about it, and I think that's true. I think the times in your life that you've been bullied affects you for your entire life. And so I thought it might be interesting to talk about times we've been bullied, times we've bullied other people, and do you think it affects you now? And I heard a lot of
deep,
interesting
isn't
things. Someone was talking about how a lot of times bullies in movies are kind of the big dumb jock guy, and he comes, and then at the end you learn to fight him and punch him in the face. And then, everybody cheers, you get the girl, it's all over. Also, a lot of times bullies aren't just the idiots. Sometimes they're smarter than you, better looking than you. And so how do you deal with it? And I think time is a loaded question, and I don't necessarily have an easy fit answer to that. But I'm more interested in how do you deal with the aftermath of it, because I think so many people have had that experience in their life, and we'll talk about maybe sometimes we've experienced it. So how do you deal with it after the fact, and do you think it changed you?
I know what you mean. I've watched a fair few interviews of comedians, especially where they talk about being bullied and how the bullying made them who they are, and their whole career they had to deflect stuff by being funny, and it made them. And I can think of lots of UK comedians who quote being bullied as an eventual positive, but I don't think bullying ends up being a positive for everybody. And I think it does make you who you are. So what you're saying is it can make people much less of a person than they could have been.
I have a buddy who he's I think at least 6'3", maybe even taller. Big guy, used to be a bouncer. And he told me that ever since he was younger, he would learn to say whatever he thought his deficiencies were before someone else had a chance to. So this is a guy that was a bouncer in a seedy bar, and in his mind it was like, let me get out because I might get teased. And so if he's thinking that, I think a lot of other people who maybe can't defend themselves.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going to say I think that's quite common, and I think I do that as well. In terms of like, if I have any suspicion that someone, in life, if you have a feeling that someone is going to in any way mock you, I will immediately get in there and put my own hair down, or I'll say, oh yeah, because I'm thinning and I'm looking old and I look like an ugly badger, and I'll get straight in there. Or today I said something, I was trying on a new pair of glasses and I did a certain look and I photographed myself to show somebody, and then I said, oh, but of course in this particular shot my nose looks like the one on Mr. Potato Head. I try to get in there first so that they can't have a comeback.
Yeah.
But what that means is you spend your entire life being self-deprecating, whereas the people that are the high flyers out there, they're not being self-deprecating. They're out there chest out and just taking the world, and then
See,
we're
I
at home going, "Oh, I look like Mr. Potato Head."
No, I disagree with that. I think everybody, and maybe
Disagrees.
this is one of those things where I'll find out it's just me. I think everybody. Sorry, I disagree. But think about it. I think everyone has the worst person who's been to you in your entire life. Whoever said the worst thing, I think there's a crowd of them in the back of your head, and every time you do anything, they comment. And, you've learned to kind of move without it, but I think maybe you don't try things. Maybe you're not as out there. And I disagree because I know people who are, people would think of as classically good looking or very smart or very successful. And they most of them either hate themselves or they love themselves so much they're compensating for hating themselves, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean because I'm incredible. I'm incredibly good looking, and I still, even though I'm so good looking, and I can have any woman that I want. I still find myself being self-deprecating.
Yesterday,
think,
only 12 women threw themselves at me, and so I was really depressed because it's down from my usual numbers.
I'll tell you what. Just sort of like, as an aside, kind of related, but. So when I was at primary school, and I don't know what the equivalent is in America, before up to like the age of 11, like you get infants and juniors and sort of primary
It's
school.
elementary school.
Elementary school. So when I was in elementary school, there was an element of me being not the coolest kid, and I wasn't, because of it. There was people that played sport, and I tended to be the guy that they kicked the ball at my head, kind of thing, and I settled into that role. Not a hard done by role, just a bit like middle of the road, playing on my computer, riding my bike. I wasn't anything special. I wasn't down here. I wasn't up there. I was kind of like middling. And then when I went to secondary school, whatever that's called in America, high school,
Probably. What grades are secondary school?
over 11.
Junior high and then high school.
So when I
Junior
went
high,
to junior
yeah,
high,
that's fine.
when I went to junior high, so I've travelled there on the bus, and it's like the first day at junior high, and it's football, right? And we all line up. No one knows each other, and someone has to pick, and then someone gets called out, and you can tell that he's like, and I can even remember his name to this day. Very good at football, and they get to pick sides. They get to this team and this team, and they stand there, and they're looking at this row of boys that they've never seen before, and this guy picked me first, right? Because there was no previous, he didn't know who I was, right? And it was my chance to just step up. But they didn't know who I was. I could have just done it, and I didn't. I got onto the pitch, and I immediately fell back into the role of, well, I can't play football. And so I lived up to what I had already been cast as, even though I could have changed everything. If that day, I always think about this. Isn't this weird? I always think about this.
No,
if that day, because I reckon my life pivoted on that moment, right? I could have walked up. They didn't know who I was, and I could have just gone for it. All I had to do was run around and kick that ball. I could have just gone for it, but I still kind of like. And then by the end of that game, he never picked me again because changed. My life changed.
No, and I think about when I was in Little League, I was really good as a pitcher. I don't know if you know a lot about baseball. Pitcher is like you throw it to the batter. Okay, so you do. And so I was really good. My dad taught me a lot of mechanics, so you don't. It's fine. My dad taught me
everything.
So I won't go into how, but my dad taught me like really good mechanics. So I threw it really hard.
Who's on third? So say the story again. Sorry,
Okay.
I won't toss about in the background.
Yeah. So let's just say I was very good in Little League, which is sort of like when you're younger, you play baseball. And so the mayor of our entire town, I pitched and I won the first All-Star game for our team in like 14 years. So I was like it. And then we went to something called Senior League. And with Senior League, the distance between where you throw the ball gets much longer, like it's wider, or longer, so you have to throw it a greater distance. So suddenly, I threw it really fast, and what happened was they had a draft of the whole town, and the mayor of the town traded the other team to pick me first. But I didn't grow at that point. So like I still was throwing like I was in Little League, and our team that year went 21-1. And the one loss was my first game. And then he would throw me in like mop-up duty. I played second base after that, which isn't horrible. I didn't ride the bench, but it's kind of like, putting a second mortgage on your house to like buy something and then it breaks the first day. But the reason I brought that up, I think about it all the time. And like whenever I'm into something and I'm doing really well at it and I have a lot of potential, I'm like, oh, the second they pick me, I'm gonna flub it up. And I say that because I think a lot of people have these experiences. And what's weird is like, how come I didn't think the game I won? How come I didn't focus on that and go, yeah, I'm a winner? No, I focused on when I failed. And I think most of us do. And I think with bullying, it puts a lot of us in an uncomfortable, scary situation that we can't find ourselves out of. And we beat ourselves up for our entire lives. Maybe we all just need therapy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, maybe because it's funny how immediately, with no research, just off the top of my head, I'm immediately thought back to that moment of being picked by the head of the football team who didn't know me from Adam, and it was my chance to just do something. And then from then on, I got put in goal, which, if you know football over here, soccer or whatever, the guy who ends up in goal every match isn't highly rated.
Yeah.
But my chance to be somebody different, and I still slunk back into my
what's
my
weird?
role in life.
What's weird is you've had a chance at a clean slate every day since that's happened. And because this has happened, you've never allowed yourself to have it in a sense. Does that make sense?
It still happens now. People will say to me, "Oh, do you want to go paddle boarding? Like standing on a paddle and like paddleboard and across rivers and things, or anything. Do you want to go canoeing? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?" And I'm always like,
"You have cooler
no.
friends than mine. My friends are like, did you watch that show?" Yours are like doing all this awesome. You want to go go into the Sahara Desert?
I always say no. The current one is, will I go surfing? It's all about surfing. And no, I always say no. I'll go to the bar. If there's a bar near the surfing, I'll sit in the bar and drink whiskey, and I'll watch you out the window surfing. And to be fair, I did once go surfing, and I put the surfboard in the water. The wave came. I stood up on the board. I did this. I rode the wave for a bit.
Wow.
And I got off the board. Yeah, it happened. And then I went,
good.
yep, fine, done that. Been there, done that. I'll never do that again.
My first time,
so I
grew up in they call it the Jersey Shore down here, and it's like very sandy beaches, and you can go in the water, and it's fine. You can surf here. But I moved to Hawaii, and it's very different. It's like volcanic rock made the beach, which it did here, but a long time ago. But so I go out for my first time surfing, and I walk out in the water, and like a big like rock like from like a volcano just hit me in the shins, and my shins started bleeding before I even went out there. I was like, nope.
Wow.
It was very very different.
Wow. Well, I got to say, you don't get a lot of volcanic rock hitting you in the shins.
I mean,
it
really was just but
Oh, when I was in Hawaii.
Was that I've been humble bragging this whole episode. I'm like
surfing. I was in Hawaii.
I know. I just realized I've been humble bragging the whole episode. I'm like, I understand, Akira, because what happens is I'm great all the time, and this one time I was less than great. So I feel your pain, man. It's suffering.
Yeah,
Life is pain. Life is pain. I pity the fool who fools my
pity. The fool.
That's
exactly what just happened. That's exactly what just happened, right? So I give you a story about how I slunk into my former self, and then about the football, and you go, "Oh, I've got a story just like that." Yeah, I was amazing at baseball. Yeah, even the mayor thought I was amazing, and as you're telling me the story, I'm thinking this story's nothing like my story. Sorry, my flocking story.
That was the pinnacle of my life. That was what's sad about that. Like I've never reached those heights again.
I wonder that's like one incident, and that isn't even bullying. I've kind of strayed from the topic. It's more a case of people being what's expected of them, or even in front of a whole new set of people with whole new opportunities, still being what's expected of them by people that aren't even there.
When I was younger, I was in a Christian school. It's like a private school. And then until 6th grade, they had to put me in public school. And so like I had a lot of trouble. And so I read that like prisons, the first thing you're supposed to do is find the toughest guy and beat the crap out of him. So they were teasing me. What I did is I found the principal, and I just beat the shit out of him in front of everybody. And like I beat him so viscerally. Like I just remember part of his face was on my fist. you know? And I just kept beating him, and it's just blood everywhere, and no one. No, I just made that part up. But
I think you got the wrong end of the stick on that one.
But no, what actually happened was I would get beat up they'd go to the bathroom every day, and like you would all for whatever reason they would send like 5 boys at a time, and I would get beat up every day. And because I was coming from a Christian school, my dad's like a Vietnam vet, pretty tough guy, but I was like, I can't hit back, so I just let him do it. And I remember it was awful. And then one day I had had enough, and I took one kid and I threw him in the trash can, and another kid, and I threw him in the toilet. And then like the one kid ended up being like my best friend. This dude, I ended up hanging out with him. But the other guy, then I thought I was like a tough guy. So I started bragging, and all the other kids like egged me on to make fun of that kid. Like, yeah, I threw you in the trash can. And then he beat me up the next day, like after I talked all kinds of trash. But, I remember that feeling, though, of going into school, and every day it's like, oh, when they call me in to the bathroom, I'm just going to get beat up. And at the time, that meant you pushed the guy 3 times, and he pushed you 4 times, so you lost the fight. But it's brutal to go through. And it's funny that the one kid became my friend after I fought back.
Yeah, it is. It is that kind of thing. I think that kind of thing's happened to me where I've ended up being friends with people like that. But I mean, when it comes to being bullied or being the bully, I can say I've been bullied in my life, because there was certainly when I was younger, there was certain people that they see the inadequacies or the I think to make themselves feel better. I can see now that they didn't have much of a life themselves, but I've got no sympathy for them, and I wish them dead. But no, I'll cut that out. I'll cut that out.
Yeah, no, you can leave here. But here's what's interesting about that. Leave that in, because I was thinking about this, and we'll talk in a minute about the worst time we've been bullied. But I remember bullying somebody, and I was younger. I was in that Christian school, and I must have been like maybe 8 years old, maybe younger. And there was this one kid that was like a tall, lanky kid, and everyone made fun of him. And I don't remember, like I just have this memory of one day at recess, I went up to him and I just lit into him. I didn't like hit him, but I was just saying like really insulting things about him. And I could see that it hurt him. And to this day, I think I did it because like I didn't want them to make fun of me. I remember at the time that my ears stuck out. That's what they would make fun of me for. But I remember just being really mean to this kid. At the time. Now they don't. I like that you interrupted me to bully me.
At the time, I had a big nose, and
I like that you took the time to pause my bullying story to bully me. But anyway,
I did. I
looked
did,
him
didn't
up.
I just did.
Like 10 years ago, I looked him up, and it's hilarious because I've always felt bad, and he looks like James Dean. Like there's just pictures of like women like it's like him sitting there with like 50 beautiful women. Like he's living. I'm so happy for him. Like it looks like he has a really great life, and he's really successful, because I always felt bad about that. But I bring that up because I consider myself a pretty nice person. I haven't really bullied anyone after that. But if you ask that guy, I'm a piece of shit, because that's maybe the only memory he has of me, and I did cause him pain probably. So that's partly deserved. So I don't think we know, the people that kind of did it to us, how much of that was who they are, or maybe we just caught them at a really bad time, and maybe there's other things we don't realize.
I like the idea when you have these sort of conversations, you see it on documentaries, on films and teen flicks and stuff, where there's always a reason for the bullying, and really the bully's a nice person, and it's just how hard done by life. And I don't necessarily buy into that. I think some people are just shitheads, and they deserve everything they get in life. But you know what? A lot of those people did absolutely fine. For instance, not necessarily a bullying story, but I remember the biggest troublemaker at school. He was actually a nice. I was friends with him, but a real disruptive person. Disrupted every lesson, and now he's done very, very well for himself. You know, very, very, and it's a shame really, because like sometimes you wish that the people that made every effort to disrupt everyone else's life, you wish that. Oh, it sounds very negative.
Do you ever do that? Do you ever see someone on social media that was mean to you, and life isn't treating them well, and you're like, yes.
Yes, but life always treats them well. Life always treats them well.
I've seen a few. Not so well.
When it comes to like me, particularly at school, I wouldn't say I was either. I wasn't particularly bullied. After when I went to whatever you're saying, a junior high or whatever, I wasn't particularly bullied. There was some points that it happened. What happened with me was I was one of those, just like at junior school. I wasn't a cool kid. I wasn't an uncool kid. I was this person just in the middle, and I kind of sort of sneaked through life a bit. But what happened was my best friend was one of the cool kids, and just because of that, I was kind of by proxy, kind of just by osmosis, I was not a cool kid, but I could hang around with the cool kids and the uncool kids. I kind of, do you know what? A bit like my channel, where I feel like it's a bit inclusive. And I kind of want to represent, as the Mercurial number 6, I want to kind of represent everybody a little bit. And I think like in life, I kind of have a little bit. But here's a story then. I think everyone at some point in time falls into the role of bully, even if you think you're a nice person. And I remember there was this guy at school who kind of big guy, walked with a bit of a limp. I think he had something wrong with him in some way. And I got involved, just like everyone else was, with calling him names. I don't know what the names was, like Limpy or something. I don't know. And then I was saying it to his face one day on the school field, and he just walked up to me and kicked me once, right? So hard, right? So hard. I think he put his good leg on the floor, anchored his good leg, and just kicked me with his bad leg. He just kicked. Who walks up to someone, right, and kicks them? He just did one kick, and
That's how I met my wife.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sorry.
But he kicked me, and then I'm lying on the floor, and my leg is killing me, and I was probably crying, and I got up, and I walked over to him, and I put my hand out and went, "Yeah, sorry about that," and he shook my hand.
That's
and I
great.
went, I'm really sorry. And like the minute that he hurt me, it was like my brain just went, what the hell are you doing? And I walked up to him, I put my hand out and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And from then on we were friends.
Well,
What the hell? Why? It's a bit like your story. Why the hell do you and I, right? If anyone in the world is not a bully, it's you and I. Mm-hmm. But you went up to the lanky kid and I went up to this guy with the leg.
I think what it is I think a lot of it is social pressure. I think you're in this group of people and there's a hierarchy to it, and it's like what do they say? If you're running away from a fast animal, you don't have to be faster than the animal. You just have to be faster than the slowest runner. And so I think that when you were in situations in school,
I've never heard that before, but that's quite good.
When they're first putting you in these sort of social situations where it's very Nietzsche-esque and survival of the fittest, sometimes you're like, I got to sacrifice that guy so I don't get it. And I think even if it's subconscious, it's like, if I can make fun of that guy, it kind of takes the pressure off me. Or maybe if you're feeling bad about yourself. I think a lot of people do it, watching TV, and you pick on the less fortunate because you go, at least I don't do that. And I think what's scarier, I wanted to say with your channel, I see that with the Mercurial number 6 with your music stuff. I've never heard you review an album and go, this sucks, and people who listen to this are idiots, or very rarely. And I think that attitude of sort of like, I'm going to find what's cool about this, does bring that crowd you talked about, and the sort of
It's
people
not
like
popular.
everybody. Well, it doesn't.
I've had people. It's not popular, The popular thing, if you want to be popular, you slag things off. You work out what's wrong with them, and you are very vocal about it, and you're as nasty as possible. And people have actually messaged me to say, why is it that everything's always good? And and I look at Anthony Fantana, the needle drops, and I tell you what, the views come. All he has to do is put a red shirt on, or give something. I forgot what it is now. There's like not even a rating. It's like a not good. I think it is not good. Yeah. Not good on the screen. People love to hear someone slag an album off. They just, like, even I do. or a film review where the person hates it. It's so much more interesting than someone who goes, yeah, it's all right. It's quite good.
Well, and we talked about the algorithm pushes you to that because that's the easy thing.
Oh yeah,
If-
yeah.
if,
I could definitely do it. I could if I wanted to get views. What happens with me though, and I can't believe people don't realise this to some extent. People suggest albums for me to listen to, which means that if I keep hearing the album name and eventually I listen to it, what it means is that the people like
They
it.
love it. They love the
Right?
album.
So I haven't yet. So I'm being like, if you suggest that I listen. So the latest one I've just done, which I'm trying to post in a minute, right? So I've just listened to this, right? And honestly, somehow, so many albums passed me by. I mean, obviously, I know Get Lucky, but I've just listened to that album, right? I'm like, you can't slag it off.
I love that album.
It's
I used to listen to
absolutely
that all the time.
It's amazing, right? So, but the view would be, to get the views would be, did you hear the Mercury number 6 gave Random Access Memories a 3 out of 10?
You know what you would say?
Oh, must watch
if
that.
You wanted to
Must
get
watch
views,
that.
If you wanted to get views, you say Get Lucky's overrated. And that would get
Yeah,
people.
yeah. And what's happened over the years then is because you're right. But what's happened over the years is that usually the album's good anyway, and I have bought it. So there's that word for it when you the sunken something.
sunk cost fallacy.
Right. So I've spent 20, 30 quid on a piece of vinyl, because what happens is I, unlike other channels, I don't just there's hundreds of these damn things everywhere. I don't just stream them off YouTube. I tell you what, everyone, right, just streams shit off YouTube and just sits there and goes, this is shit, innit? This is shit, or this is really good. I bought these and when you've bought them, you feel a bit more invested. So once I've bought this, right, do I want to slag it off? Because I own the bloody thing. I don't want to slag it off. So there's an element of me. This is a bad thing, really, because it's not very honest. But there's an element of me like not wanting to find To Pimp a Butterfly shit because I own it. Yeah. However, there's also the element, which is the truth of it, which is there's good in everything, and I just try and find the good. Because someone invested so much time in making any album. So when Fantano gives an album like, I don't really watch him very much, but if just say he gives an album like a 1 out of 10, I could listen to same said album and find loads of good in it. I really could. What's that one you wanted me to listen to? Corey Feldman. You said it was like the worst album of all time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not Corey Feldman. Which one was that one? Angels or something. Some actor out of the Goonies, and he did an album. I'm sure it was you who said. It was terrible.
It was Corey Feldman, I think.
Yeah. I reckon
This
I
is a
could
while
probably find
ago.
good in that. Oh,
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Years ago. But I reckon I could find good in that. I think it would be good to listen to some shit albums.
Well, actually,
to watch me like them.
This actually leads to one of my worst bullying stories.
Okay.
And it'll start with what seems like
Anthony
a humble brag.
Fantano bullied you.
Yeah, it'll seem like one of the worst humble brag, but it's not. When I lived in Hawaii, I had. Let me start with the humble brag, but just to tear myself down, okay? But like
Yeah.
I was at a time where I was making music and things weren't working out, and I was having a really
When I was
tough
in the
time.
recording studio in Hawaii. Sorry. Sorry, I'll stop. I'll
right.
stop.
I
Carry on.
think
I'll
I've
put
told
a
you
line
this-
in. I'll shut up.
I think I've told you this story, but we'll say the lime. It's easy to be serious with that. With your, are you gonna go play sports now? You got the mouth guard in. You're gonna go give it a try.
It's my Marlon Brando Godfather. Hang on.
So it does.
Come on.
So I went to it was a difficult time in my life. It was trying to make offers to people, and they weren't accepting it.
Why is he making that voice?
That's my Marlon Brando, my Godfather Marlon
Oh.
Brando voice.
I'm gonna give you an offer. Hang on. Shut up.
I'm sorry.
Hang on. I'm gonna give him an offer. He got refused.
There you go. I'm so upset with you that I've
I'm
gone.
so upset.
Wait, let me. Ready? Here's what you say. Ready? You go. I'm so upset with you that I've gone and shoved all these limes in my mouth.
Get on with your story.
All right. So, well, this is really difficult to tell a harrowing story now. So, a whole pile of inoculated arms. The horror. So, I can't tell. Take the limes out of your mouth. I can't tell the story. Look, I froze in a very flattering way.
Bullying.
Bullying. He just bullied me on my story. Anyway, it was a very tough time, and the only thing that kept me going at the time was the thought that I had lost relationships and everything, and I thought if I could be a big-time musician, if I could sell 1 million albums, I'll show them all. This is my way of sort of getting out. And even then, things are falling apart. The studio went under. The financial guy argued with the producer guy. So then I'm in Hawaii, but I've got nothing to do there. Everything that I went to go there is done. I'm in a little apartment, and I get an email. Now, this is going to show my age. It's back with MySpace. And this woman emails me, and she goes, we've heard this demo song that you've made, and we like it so much that we would like to do a podcast about the demo song. And I'm like, are you serious? And at the time, a podcast was like, oh my God. So I'm excited. So I put a thing, and I say to her, I go, well, this is just a demo version that I recorded on like an old Korg D12 with a bad drum machine. And it was a sentimental song. A relationship ended. It was about that. And I was like, I recorded a better version of that song. Do you want to use that? No. We really like this demo version. So I'm like, okay. So I literally write on my little MySpace thing, hey, everybody, I'm going to be on a podcast. And this one girl that I'd broken up with, I was hoping she saw that. Yeah, look at you missing out on the whole thing, you know? The podcast comes on. It's 2 guys from some blues group that I never heard of. And they just slagged and made fun of me and the song for what seemed like 45 minutes. And I listened to every second of it. And they just, and then they were of the virtuoso guitar. So I was playing indie rock songs. So as you know, my style is take a simple melody and then play it like with 4 different variants of a simple melody to create complexity through simplicity. It's something I've always liked to do. They just thought, oh, I can't play a guitar solo. That's why I'm doing this. But it just took my soul out of my body. And like that was all, it was like your house burned down and there was one like foundation that was sort of blowing in the wind. And then a group of guys just came in front of you and then it gathered the whole town while they just knocked down that last foundation. And I just remember like, I just had nothing. It was just empty. And obviously I've released albums after that with you, with another friend of mine, that have been semi-successful. I mean, obviously, we still have day jobs, but they've done all right. And every time I release anything, I think of that time where I had that podcast. And I think of, as a parent, we talked about bullying, and the worst that could happen is everyone in your entire school, like, laughs at you or thinks you're terrible. Now, they put it online, and everyone in the world laughs at you. Remember, this is years ago, they had Star Wars Kid, and he had like a Darth Maul lightsaber, and he was like jumping around, like trying to do a Star Wars fight, and everyone thought it was funny, and they shared it. So everyone in the world, imagine we just talked about our most embarrassing moment, and imagine someone in Japan right now is laughing at you. You just can't escape it.
I think you're right. I think I don't know how. I think social media has changed everything. The kids who are now experiencing bullying via social media don't know what it was like before. All they know is this. We've got the benefit of knowing probably how... I think you're right. I think it's probably worse now because back in the day, one person would have a go at you. And it could be really bad. I don't want to downplay it because I'm sure people had such hard times one-on-one, decades ago, that they would find it irritating to be told that a message on Facebook was worse than being properly bullied. But I tell you what,
but it's not. Imagine
there's something about these Facebook groups and stuff.
Because kids now are sending nudes to each other.
Switch your phones off.
Kids now are sending nudes to each other.
Yeah.
So imagine you send a nude to your girl, which if you're watching this and you're younger, just don't do this.
Don't ever take pictures of yourself nude.
Just don't do it. But
don't
let's
have
say
any of them in.
You do,
just don't have them
and
in
let's
existence.
say she shares it with everybody now,
Which they will, which eventually
sure.
they will. Please, people at home, please understand that no matter how much you trust the person you send it to, it will be shared and other people will get hold of it. And every nude picture or nude video that you ever do will be shared.
Whenever you send anything to anyone, whether it be a text message, whatever, imagine everyone in the world that you know sitting there watching it. And if it's still cool, send it. If not, they're going to see it eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
But and that has been our tip for the day on the only podcast you'll ever need. So if you're watching at home, we just cut out something hilariously funny that's, like I said, not to put on the internet. We shouldn't have talked about it, so we're cutting that out. And now we're getting back to what we were.
That's cut.
Yeah,
That's
cut it out. Yeah.
Or I'll put black bars over our mouths and beep the whole thing, and people can just hear.
Maybe if we ever get big enough, we can create a Patreon and just have it for all the offensive stuff we say that we have to take out because we're worried.
Yeah, I could say that. And sign up for the Patreon to find the exclusive
What
full
that joke
version.
was. Yeah.
You can hear the joke, and you can pay your money and hear the joke. Hear the joke.
Pay your money, hear the joke. If you pay your money, you
subscribe.
get to hear all the jokes. Please hit the bell. Don't forget to hit the bell. Like and subscribe. You hear all the jokes. More jokes. Hit the bell. $5 a month.
Bloody hell.
I remember what I told you about him.
Cutting
is
that
like
out. I'm cutting
I
that
watched
out.
the documentary and they're like, no one could have predicted, and I'm like, this is the creepiest man I've ever seen in my life, and they're like, no one would have known.
I'll tell you what, that kind of fits in with the bullying theme because there's a lot of bullying that is so subtle, right? I mean, okay, Jimmy Savile is not a subtle looking man, but he presented children's programs, many of them. Jim Will Fix It was a big deal, and he was just seen as a charitable bloke. But if you think about how subtle some bullying can be, it's not all about a big bloke throwing little kids around. There's a lot of emotional, manipulative stuff, and I think there's so in the social media world as well.
Oh yeah,
and I think probably, maybe I would assume that bullying is probably worse than ever now. Maybe. What about in the work? We haven't even talked about in the workplace and stuff like that. Like as an adult, I mean. We talked about how bullying as a child can influence the way you are when you grow up. But what happens? Does a bullied person as a child become a bullied person later in life, or do they become the bully to compensate? Or what happens?
Another friend had taken a second job, and he told me the story, and this made me think of things differently. And he took a second job, and the boss at the second job would just berate him and bully him. And so I did the old, well, why don't you just kick his ass? Like, why do you take it? And he said, because my kids rely on me to have that job. So a lot of times we think of the macho guy or the strong person as the one that fights back, but a lot of times the strong person keeps their mouth shut. What are the old Carlos Castaneda, which are kind of fraudulent things, but they talked about the petty tyrants. The old Yaqui sorcerers would seek out like petty jobs, and they would say that if you can find power, if you can get through having someone dumber than you in a position of power over you, then you're ready to conquer the universe at large. Like, that's the toughest test, is you have to be under the thumb of someone you don't respect. And it can be soul crushing because you need that job to support your family, and you just have to put up with sometimes terrible treatment. And I think it's something we don't talk about enough because it's you're looked at as weak if you've ever been bullied. Like, you always want to be like, oh, but I showed them. And I think if more people...
you mean admitting it as an adult that you're currently being bullied?
Well, if you're currently being bullied or if you have been, because I think that a lot of people think, oh, I must be weak because I had this happen to me. But I think so many people that if they talked about it, and like I said, my huge, bouncer friend had issues. I think we all have. And I think it's the realization that you're okay. Like, everyone has been made a fool of, and that's part of being a human being. It doesn't mean that you're destined to be that for the rest of your life. And I know it's much harder to deal with because it's sort of so ingrained in our subconscious. Like, I try writing now in music. You always have to shout down the cop in your head that goes, oh, you're taking a risk here. Whenever you put yourself out there, you're at risk of someone batting you down. And it's difficult to get past that. Obviously, you're online, but I think for other people that are going through their lives, they are going to remember the person that tore them down way more than all the people that like them. And I think our society, because the algorithm, and it's not a conspiracy, they're just making money. They want to promote anger, they want derision, all that, because you're going to click on that.
Oh yeah.
That it becomes a feedback loop. So I feel miserable about myself because my brain's replaying that stuff. So then I go online and I start trashing other people because it makes me feel a little better about myself.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I feel
I
like
think
our
that goes on.
society, I feel like our society is kind of at the pinnacle of that. And I hope we reach a point where we're like, we got to change a little bit. And I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how to do that for myself or others. But I do think we have to be a little bit more conscious about, like, it's okay. You're all right. Yeah, it is totally natural. I made a comment that like, was a random comment on a true crime video. And it was one you've already heard. I was like, when the cops say that you're a good person, that you're in for it, something like that. And like I got like a bunch of people who liked the comment, but then there was like 10 people that were like, you make this comment on every video, which is not true, But but so there's a percentage. It's like once you get so big, you're gonna get a percentage of people that are just spewing and it's just a mathematical percentage. And I wish I could get in my own head, and I wish everybody collectively could get in their head that, especially people pleasers like ourselves, it's totally normal and okay for a percentage of people in the world not to like you or to think you're stupid or to think you're whatever. That's normal and that's okay. Whenever you put yourself out there in any way, there's going to be at least 10% of people are going to think you're awful and maybe more. And that's completely normal and okay. That doesn't mean that you're awful.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I do accept that, and I say it to people all the time. I just say I really past the point of caring whether people like me or not, and I mean in real life. Like I'm past
real life.
the point of caring.
Yeah, I am. It's funny, the one I've been shaving my head since like for like 20 years now or whatever. And people, though, I almost like it because people think that that's something they can get me. Like someone teases me and I'm like, okay. Like it's almost like, oh, good. They didn't pick on something that really bothers me. And it's funny, like it's almost like a shield. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going through life.
Batfink had, my wings are like a shield of steel. Bill has my head.
No, you know what it is? Batman
My bonds.
used to put a yellow symbol because he wanted people to shoot there because that's where most of his armor was. And I just do that on my head.
You just, every time someone shines a light, you make sure it bounces off. So I'm trying to bully you.
That's right. If you're trying to bully me, I just block you with my head.
Yeah, that's good. No, I like that. I like something that I've now forgotten what it was you were saying, but just a minute ago, you were saying
I was talking
something that
about as a
sounded like
society, just
it was a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah, that like a certain percentage of people aren't going to like you, and they're going to hate everything you stand for. And remember what George Carlin said. Think about how dumb the average person is, and remember that 50% of people are stupider than them. And sometimes it's a good thing that people don't care for you. Sometimes there's certain types of people, and I'm not trying to do a PSA. But I think we get so caught up in our own insecurities that sometimes it's nice to realize, like, hey, if you're watching this, you're all right. You're okay.
You're right. You're right. There's so people should take away from this. There is always going to be a certain percentage of people who will just not like you, and there could be so many reasons for it. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you. Just take it that say 10% of people won't like you, maybe 1%, whatever.
Especially for younger people that are listening, I wish somebody told me. Because in school you're in such a small environment, that if it's totally normal not to find your crowd there.
Yes,
like, they are out there,
and people don't, do they? You get these poor kids that when they're a teenager they become goths or whatever, and a certain set of music, a certain set of friends. But when you're in your early days at school, you're trapped in that class. In my time, it was a class of 30, and there were certain times where I didn't really get on. I didn't really have anything in common with any of them, but I think the idea that you have a percentage of people that just
somebody
will not
did
like you.
an unreal thing, and I forget what the exact statistic was, but it was like if 99% of the world thought you were ugly, that 1% that thought you were attractive would be like 45 million people or something like.
Yeah, oh God, when you say it like that.
Yeah,
When you
it's
say
a
it
big
like
world. It's a big world.
What I like as well, it follows on from what you just said, but to sort of wrap it up, I think people should also realise that there's something quite nice about people not liking you, because it's in art. We've said it ourselves sometimes. In art, if you paint a painting, I recently went to the Picasso Museum and saw some interesting works there, which you could argue either way whether they're good or not. But the idea that you make a painting, you make an album, you make a film, and rather than people, what did you think of my album? What did you think of my video I did on Daft Punk? Rather than someone going, right? It's quite good when someone goes, I hated it, or I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved what you did. Your album, I loved it. Your album, I hated it, right? Because hate and love, I mean, you know, people put it on their hands in prison and that. But hate and love, that's what you want. You want hate and love. You don't want meh. You don't want 5 out of 10. You want 0. You want a red shirt and not good. I hated that album. It was shit.
If we were,
it was
call it
brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. Right. So if people are listening out there and they're having a troubled time, just remember that there's something to be said for every person that says they hate you or you think hates you. There'll be someone else around the corner who will absolutely love you.
Well, here's the tough thing too. Internalize it. Is it something you can fix? Are you being a bit of a jerk? Are you being something? And I'm not saying because the bully's right. No, I'm saying if somebody is really getting into you, self-assess. And if it's something that, you know, your looks or something you can't control, then like everything we're saying, if it is something like in your attitude or something that you can improve on, you can turn a negative into a positive, and maybe it can be a wake-up call to like get yourself in a better place.
Like the bloke who kicked me in the leg when I was being a dick, and I immediately shook his hand and said, "You're right."
I think as people that work on music and now in other creative things, part of that process is you finish your first draft, you get it to the best place you can, and then you show it to your most trusted friends, and they go, I like this is shit, this is good, this is shit. And what my reaction to that always is when you first criticize it, I go, bullshit. No, you're wrong. And then you let yourself, your emotions go down and you go, oh, okay, that's right. Maybe I disagree with that. And so taking criticism, sometimes your first reaction is going to be defensive and you're going to hate it and you're going to think that person's an idiot, and then let your emotions cool down and think about it then, and then assess. I didn't intend for this podcast to be like a we'll help you, like we're somehow experts, but I feel it's turning into that.
I mean, I feel like I feel like I am an expert, so this is good. It's like a self-help. Call me, Darren Brown or Paul McKenna or whatever, but this is, I think, what Bill and I have got across here is that we're up there with Marx and Karl Marx. Is it? No, not Karl Marx.
Up there with Karl Marx.
Said about,
what?
which
Socialism?
is the one who said about not socialism. Freud, Sigmund Freud. We're up there with Freud.
You know what?
We're up there
I
with
thought
Freud.
to myself, we're up there with Stalin.
Oh, Freud, Marx.
Yeah, me and Bill, just like Stalin. Mussolini. Me and Bill, regular couple Mussolinis.
Right, and on that bombshell, I think that his bullying thoroughly discussed.
We have
And
eradicated bullying.
it was amazing. I think that was probably the best discussion. I feel that was the best discussion that's ever been had on bullying anywhere. Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, wherever. That's it. Done.
If someone disagrees, tell them, and I'll tease them mercilessly till they stop.
Yes. Yes. Right. Till next time. Bill's over.
Back. And
Over. And.